Hello everyone. This is my end of the year video. Uh, a few years ago, I created a Facebook page in order to get back in touch with friends and family that I hadn't seen in years because I've been so distant. I've been gone for so many years. So, one of the methods of healing and trying to end my addiction is to try to get more in touch with people, try to become more sociable. So I created a Facebook page, but I am just very unsatisfied with the Facebook app. It is just horrible. It is just very faulty. It's full of bugs. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's probably worse than the app that they would make us use at Walmart. I have a lot of trouble with it, and it's so complicated. Just to change your just to change your password, they make you go through so many steps, so many trials. It's just like, and I notice there's always people on there, and I want to talk to more people, and I want my point to come across, but it's just so complicated on Facebook. So I decided to simplify things and just make this video, and then upload it, and then you guys can come and talk to me later or comment. And I know I have a lot of friends and family that also as well don't speak any English. Hola, buenas noches, ¿cómo están? Estoy haciendo este video, es el final del año y yo sé que he vivido muy distante por muchos años y por eso estoy haciendo este video para tratar de reconectarme con familiares pero yo tengo la mala suerte que siempre tengo una mala experiencia con la aplicación de Facebook. No me gusta. Desde que empezó Facebook, since Facebook first started, I've never liked that fucking app. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. But oh well, what are you gonna do about it, right? If you don't have Facebook, you're nobody, and that's just how it is. But all right, let me get to the point. So a few nights ago, I almost died, and some people might think that's a little extreme. I, for some reason, at the time when it happened, it was kind of strange because like death is a part of life, and a lot of people don't ever want to like face up to it. It doesn't matter what age you are. You're always susceptible. You're always susceptible to death. That's just death is natural. That's just there's no escaping it. There's no going around it. That's just part of life. But some people are just so in love with this world and this reality, they don't want to let it go. It's their favorite toy. And when it first happened to me, when I had my near death experience, I mean, yeah, I was scared and I had a lot of paranoia. But now that it's been a few days, I think it's been like 8 or 9 days since this happened. I've kind of let go of everything, and I'm at a point where I just don't care. Like, I mean, I care about my remaining years, and I'm trying to make the most of it. But I'm just like, it's sort of like I'm enlightened, like I had a what you call a spiritual awakening, even though I don't believe in the supernatural. In fact, I want to go as far to say that nobody has any reason to believe in the supernatural at all. Nobody, because there has been zero supernatural events that have taken place. Okay, so I know I'm getting derailed. I do that a lot. I'm all over the place. I'm gonna try to stay on topic. What I really want to talk to you about is how about marijuana. And I know I sound like a broken record. I'm always talking about the same thing, but yes, it's important that we talk about this subject over and over and over until it gets drilled in your head. I when I heard, I didn't even know what marijuana was when I first tried it. I first tried it when I was 13 years old. It's actually a strange story. It was introduced to me by a cousin. I'm not gonna say any names. I was 13 years old. I didn't know what, and he gave me some. I didn't know how to smoke it. I didn't know that you had to, roll it up in a joint or in a tobacco leaf. I remember putting it on a pizza because I saw a cartoon called Three South, where about some characters that were in college, and they put it on a pizza. They got really stoned. So I saw them, kind of like the kid who saw that episode of Beavis and Butthead, and then he lit his house on fire. Monkey see, monkey do. So I sprinkled the marijuana on the pizza, and I ate the pizza, and I had a psychedelic experience. But my father instilled so much fear in me that I never dared to touch it again. Until years later, when I was around 19, it was reintroduced. Keep in mind, I grew up like 5 or 10 minutes from the Mexican border. So marijuana was reintroduced to me, and the second time that it was reintroduced to me, I ate it again. That's how it first started. It started with edibles. Funny thing, it didn't. My first psychedelic experience was not with smoke. It was with edibles, and I was never too keen on smoking. I never got addicted to cigarettes. I never saw the whole. I don't know. I just never got into cigarettes. I never saw the whole appeal to them. But my psychedelic experiences have always been with my first psychedelic experience initially was eating. So years passed, and over time, eating it was not very practical. And as time went on, it evolved from joints to cigars and then pipes. And I got in trouble when I was I got arrested back in 2010 when I was in college. I was studying to become a machinist, and I got into some trouble for having a bong in my dormitory by the campus PD. Now I didn't go to jail, but I got a citation, and that disqualified me from receiving further financial aid, and I had to drop out of school. And I wasn't very passionate about what I was studying, but still, it's interesting because, had that not happened, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. And who knows? It's destiny. That I guess that was what was meant to happen to me. And after I dropped out of college, I ended up moving to Louisiana in Baton Rouge, where I was working as a movie extra, and that was nice while it lasted. But I wasn't landing any more roles, and eventually I had to get a real job. And I was working at me. I came over here to Nashville. I didn't know anything about Nashville. I just moved over here back in 2012, and I was working at the music festivals. And ever since I've moved here to Nashville, they've always been talking about legalizing marijuana. Now that I'm 36 years old and I'm looking back, yeah, sure, it sounds really cool. Like, yeah, let's just make it legal. Let's just make it accessible for everyone. Why not? And I feel that is a huge disservice. Like, I think it's kind of dangerous that they're not telling us the truth. Now, I know what you guys may be thinking. Like, yeah, I know people who have been smoking their whole lives. They're just fine. That's not the point, though. Each individual is very different, and I don't know. I just don't feel that it's right. I feel that if they're gonna legalize it, they should warn us about it. They should tell us the whole truth about what it does. Because, for example, I didn't know that marijuana caused hypokalemia and cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, and that the crude combustion of the smoke is just as the crude combustion of marijuana smoke is just as dangerous as tobacco smoke. I didn't know all this. For years, they've been telling us that it was completely harmless. We've been hearing about this from the media, from Hollywood movies, and it's just not true. And what's interesting is that back in I don't even remember when it was. I think it was back in 2007. I met a marijuana advocate. Well, she's now a marijuana advocate. Her name is Zara Snap. And what I don't understand is, if she's not a doctor, then why is she recommending that people smoke marijuana to ease their anxiety? I don't understand that at all. That just boggles my mind. And what's crazy is that people, I guess they just want to hear what they want, and they'll just go for it. Like they'll be like, ah, okay, it's all right, and they'll just go on smoking, not really caring or not really looking too deep into it. But I had to find out the hard way. So, of like eight days ago, I was diagnosed with hypokalemia, which is induced by the marijuana. What hypokalemia is like it's a drop in your potassium levels, and if you don't have enough potassium, you can have complications. It could even be fatal. Like if your potassium levels are too low, you can suffer from a stroke or you can die. I've had debates with people before about God, and usually, like, the number one argument I hear all the time is that they always ask me, "How is your heart beating right now?" Which is a strange question. You really don't ever think about that as you go through your day. You don't remind yourself to continue breathing, or you don't remind yourself that your heart has to keep going. Your heart just naturally beats. And I've been asked this question before: what powers the heart? And I've been asked this question before by various believers. The question comes up a lot, sort of like if they're trying to corner you or push you into a conclusion. Like they'll ask you, "How is your heart beating?" All right. Then they'll get to their conclusion and be like, "Therefore, it is God who is powering your heart." But it doesn't take a God or something mystical to power your heart. It just takes potassium. That's what I learned a few days ago. And I'm getting into the medical field. I'm planning on becoming a nurse. Well, I'm planning on becoming a nurse's assistant next year, because I recently got a job in a nursing home, and recently the topic of health has come up a lot. And I had a friend who recently passed away a few months ago because of cirrhosis of the liver. So the subject has continuously arisen, and I've been spending a lot of time in hospitals. I don't know if that's like a clue or whatever, but anyways. And also I have family in the medical field, and so I've decided to get into the medical field and study nursing. I'm taking baby steps. I used to be a deist. I used to believe deism. I don't know if you guys ever heard of deism. I used to believe that there was a God, but he doesn't really intervene in earthly affairs, and there is no doctrine or scripture, because those are human inventions, and that God was beyond all comprehension and knowledge. And one of the things that got me smoking was back in, like, I think it was like 2010, around the time that I got kicked out of college. I saw a documentary on National Geographic about a tribe in India called the Sadhus, and a festival called the Shiva Ratri. And basically what they do is they worship marijuana. And at the time I was dabbling. See, the thing is, when I first started smoking marijuana, I remember I wasn't that addicted. I remember I would smoke here and there. I'd go weeks without it. I'd come back to it. And after I saw that, I was very naive. I was very I was very easily influenced. What is that word? No, that'll come back to me. But when you're young, you're very easy to convince. And after I saw that documentary, I thought to myself, well, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to smoke marijuana. And so I went that route. And now that I'm 36, I've come to find out that there is more to life than just that. I mean, I remember there would be a lot of times that I would avoid interactions with people just to get high, and it's caused me a lot of trouble. And right now I'm 8 days sober, and this isn't the first time that I tried quitting. I've been trying to quit since 2022. After I got out of quarantine, I was in quarantine for 3 years. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 years. At the time, I was running my own little business, and marijuana does that to you. It makes you very delusional. It makes you think like it causes psychosis. It makes you like completely just like you just don't care about what anybody tells you. You don't care about anybody's feelings. None of that matters. What matters is that, at the end of the night, you get high. And that's how I lived. And when I got out of quarantine, and I witnessed the world for the first time, I remember I was in such shock at how much everything had changed. And I had my first ever panic attack, and I thought it was a heart attack. I was convinced that that's what it was, and I went. And this all started. This whole journey started December 5th, 2022, 2 years ago. And after that, I started just doing a bunch of research into psychology, epistemology, biology, health, philosophy, you name it. I just went down this really deep rabbit hole, and I came out the other side a new man. And I've tried to quit before. Every time I quit, I go 6 months without it, right? And what makes me want to quit is the chest pains and the heart pains and the heart palpitation and just all these irregularities. Like, I mean, I've always been active. I've always been a very active person. I'm not saying I'm an athlete or anything, but I've always been an active person. I've always ridden around, and I've never been a big sports guy, but I've always been on bicycles, lifting weights, swinging nunchucks, playing around with swimming, whatever, you name it. I've always been active. I've always been an active person. In fact, I've never really been much of a car guy all my life. I walk everywhere I go. A lot of people say I look very young. I'm 36 years old. A lot of people say that for my age, I look very good. So I've always been a healthy guy. And when I started feeling all these things, it was very strange to me. And I thought it was the end. I really did. I thought, and come to find out that it was the marijuana that was causing all this. And when they first told me all this, I was in denial. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how can this be? How can it be the marijuana that's causing this? If supposedly they have been telling us that marijuana is a safe alternative to alcohol. And that's another argument too that I hear all the time that just doesn't make sense to me anymore, where people say alcohol is safer than marijuana. I mean, I don't get that. They're two very different things. One of them is a liquid, the other one's crude, the crude combustion of smoke. One doesn't have anything to do with the other. There's no comparison between the two. Yet I notice all the time that people pit one against the other. I think what it has to do with where you're from and your culture, because which that's another thing. I don't believe that culture even exists. I know a lot of people say that whenever I ask people to demonstrate culture, they always say that the way they dress, or certain structures or statues or pieces of literature represents culture. And I don't think that just because a person dresses a certain way, that represents that culture, as if the culture is a sort of entity. I think that's all in your head. That's just a construct, and it divides us. And depending what culture you're from, or what part of the world you're from, what region you were born in, You either drink alcohol or you don't. And a lot of people, I guess, they grow up. Maybe it's because a lot of people grow up watching their parents fight, and the parents are boozing, and they put one in the other, and they think to themselves, well, alcohol is causing this. Alcohol is, and then they see people, they hear about every day the fatalities on the road, and they think, well, alcohol is the bad guy. Alcohol is the culprit behind all this, and what's safer than alcohol? Well, marijuana, and it's not. And I feel like there's a huge disservice, and something needs to be done. And we're barely in the beginning phases of all this. Where marijuana is becoming really, really big, and it's becoming, and they're legalizing everywhere, and I mean, I just wanted to get off this all. I wanted to get this off my chest, and who's ever watching, I hope that I'm reaching out to you somehow. I really do, and I thought when all this started, I told myself. Well, at first I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it that it was marijuana causing me this. So I started doing all these experiments. Like, the first experiment I did was get completely sober. I thought to myself, maybe you just need a tolerance break. Maybe you just need to take a break. So I took a break. I went without it 6 months. And six months into my sobriety, I started feeling great. And once again, I picked it up. A few months passed, and the chest pains and the heart pains returned. They were just nasty, and it's just not a heart pain and chest pain. Another weird effect. There's different things that the marijuana is doing to me, and I don't know if other people can relate. One of the things it does is that it lowers your core temperature. It lowers your body temperature. It makes you feel real cold, even though you're completely wrapped up or you're in front of a heater. You just feel real cold. And also, it makes my legs feel like gummy, like dog shit, basically. Like my legs just become real numb, real cold, real gummy. Like it's very hard for me to walk or stand. And then I heard about a guy who's 10 years younger than me, who got paralysis in the lower extremities. He woke up one morning, and he was paralyzed from the waist down because of the marijuana. And what it was the hypokalemia, and we're all different, and we're all very unique. None of us are equal, and it seems to have different effects on people. And I know another thing that I noticed that marijuana does, right? Now, marijuana is very funny because it'll either mess you up in the beginning, right? It'll either mess you up right away. Like, as soon there's people I've noticed that they'll start smoking, they'll start smoking, right? And after a while, they'll get sick and they'll just stop. There's other people who can continue with it, right? And as they get older, they'll get tachycardia, or a scarred lung, or they'll be more susceptible to pneumonia and other things. Like, smoke just doesn't belong in our bodies. I'm sorry. The funny thing is, our ancestors have been smoking for years. For thousands of years they've been smoking, but for some reason our bodies have not evolved in order for us to better consume smoke. What's strange is that scientists are finding out that humans are still evolving. That what we see now when we look at ourselves in the mirror is not the final product. I'll give you an example. Lately, they've been discovering that newborns are being born with softer teeth, with no wisdom teeth, because over the years we have been so used to eating cooked food, processed food, or food that is enriched, food that is made purposely softer. So A lot of things are occurring, but for some reason our bodies are not suitable for smoke. Even though we've been humans have been smoking for millions of years, our bodies have not adapted to the smoke. And like I said, I hope I reach out to you, whoever is listening. I hope if you have any questions, message me. I've done this is already the third time that I've tried to quit, and I am fully convinced that marijuana is harmful, and regardless if your body is more tolerant or not, I've also noticed a lot of cognitive decline. I mean, I hate to sound real critical, but I've spoken to older potheads, and guys, let me tell you something. It's not pretty. I've spoken to, and I'm not gonna say names. All right, you know who you are, or whenever you talk to them, you'll know who they are. There's certain people you'll talk to who are veteran smokers, and yeah, sure, they're productive and they're useful, but there's just something about them, like they're just a little slower, and like their speech is a little different. And like I said, I don't mean to sound critical, but I mean, do you guys really want to go down that route? Just think about it. And when I first heard about this, and now this is sort of a joke to me. Not that death is a joke to me, or I don't take it seriously, but I've accepted it. Like I've come to peace with it. It's just part of life. But I remember telling myself that don't be that guy that intervenes in other people's lives and tries to get them to quit. I understand all that. It's impossible. I'm not gonna be able to get everyone to quit, and I'm not gonna convince you tonight. I know that, but maybe one person, as long as I can make a difference in one person's life, that's all that matters to me. And I've run on for a long time, and I really wanted to make an end of the year video because it's been a crazy year. It's been a really, really crazy year, and I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it on this note. I was gonna do a little bit of improv and make jokes, but maybe for another time. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and just end it here. Thank you for joining me. Buenas noches.